Well, we got Coach Wyatt with us this week. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Doing good.
I would imagine 2-0, off to a good start.
Yeah, definitely. How's practice this week with bye week?
It's been good. We challenge the kids to, we talk about sharpening your axe. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's the mission this week. We don't have a game. We don't have any of those, game reps and all that. So we've done a good job up to this point. We had a really good Monday, really good Tuesday, and just finished a really good Wednesday. So we're back at it tomorrow to finish up a good week. And the kids have responded because you don't know.
Right.
We're not preparing to play a game this week, so but they've responded really well. Really up to the point from last week when we had a bad practice. It's been a lot better ever since. So we're still growing as a team, but to see that consistency, hopefully that stays the same.
I mean, this is your first bye week that I can think of since you've been. Is this the first bye week as a head coach?
Yeah, it's the first bye week as head coach, first one I've ever been a part of.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, where did you lean on anyone else? Did you talk, or did you just kind of feel kind of the temperature of your team? I mean, how did you kind of decide how to take this week? Because, I mean, a lot of times when you have that bye week, you kind of have it right before district play. People play week 0, 1, 2, and then kind of have that bye week 3 leading in district. This one kind of broke up a little. I mean, where did you talk to anybody, get advice from anybody? I mean, how did you kind of set up this week and moving forward?
Yeah, we talked about it as a staff, and then I reached out to a couple guys, some coaching buddies in Oklahoma that, ironically, one of them has the same situation. They have a weird bye week too, where it's this week, play a non-district game, and then into district. So just kind of gathered a lot of information and kind of felt we made a decision that was best for us. So so we were really light Monday, just helmet only. Of course, we left for our 9th JV game after that, and then so real quick to the point, and then we're going to go hard Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, which is different from a normal week because Thursday we would have our walkthrough.
Right.
But I felt like it was good to really push out the schedule, push out the plan to the kids early. That way they can kind of embrace it, prepare for it, and
Well, they know on that back end they've got that day off too. And, and things like that.
And that's our plan for Friday is to, bye week we're gonna give them off, and we plan to play a long time, so I think it's important to take breaks when they're needed, so we can push this thing like we want to later in the year.
And then Sunday you'll roll back into kind of a normal game week and kind of start getting ready for that Newcastle game.
Yeah. So we'll go normal routine, bring the kids in Sunday afternoon. Talk game plan, and that's really beneficial because we've started working on Newcastle a little bit this week, so we feel like the extra preparation we'll definitely need it, and then Sunday we'll get back into our routine. But we've kept our morning film like we do during game week because we didn't want to get fully out of a routine.
Yeah.
So and that's been beneficial because we got to watch the Hillcrest game, and now in the mornings we're watching practice film. And seeing, I think that's really beneficial because we can kind of pull back as far as looking at Newcastle and really look at us.
Yeah.
So it's been good. It's been really good, and because when we scheduled it way back in August, July, I was like, man, what are we going to do?
Right.
And our kids have been game for it. Coaches have had a good plan for it, and it's been good up until this point.
I mean, you kind of touched on it a little bit. I mean, take me through this week. Obviously, you just said you've done some game prep, but I mean, like I said, are you more working on fixing the mistakes that you saw week 0 and week 1, or are we starting a game plan towards Newcastle, or has it kind of just been a kind of a mix there?
Been a little bit of both. I feel like we cleaned up some things already, so we've kind of took the next step into Newcastle, and it's been good. We played the odd front week 0, a different front last week, so we get to work an even front this week. So a little bit different, but kids have been real receptive to it. And then obviously what they do on offense, kind of similar to MacArthur in a way. So kind of familiar with that, but everybody's different. So, but man, it's been good.
So we're 2 weeks in. I mean, kind of take us through those first 2 weeks. And like I said, every year, I know we got a ton of people returning, but we also got a lot of new kids on the field this year. Take us we'll kind of recap Hillcrest as we go and talk about players of the week, but kind of take us through those first 2 weeks and what you've seen and what you like, and then also kind of maybe some improvements that we need to see in these next upcoming weeks?
Yeah, first off, preparing for the week 0 was different. Thursday, week 0 happened real fast. And so, we did what we had to do for that week. Came back, had a good normal week for Hillcrest. That was good. And then kind of off this week. So it's been something different, in the 3 weeks. But as far as like the kids and what we've got, we're seeing some really good things from some guys that, we thought coming in from summer to fall camp that we would see, and those things come to fruition has been really good to see. And for me, the main thing is watching our team grow. And that's something that I've talked to our seniors, I've talked to our captains about. This is the 24-25 Owls. It's not last year.
Right.
It's not next year. It's your team, and we've got to build that identity. And that's been really good. And at first, we had some rough points talking about it with the seniors and captains, and we give them kind of the blueprints or some pointers on what that looks like, and they really took it by the reins. And I think that's why practice has been pretty good, is because you start to see those guys kind of take control, understand that it's their time, and they know exactly what we want. But now they're in the driver's seat, and it's up to them to get us to where we need to be. So their growth, our seniors and a lot of our juniors that are stepping up, that's been my biggest thing that I'd love to see is, our identity is coming into our own.
Right.
And that's big.
Talk a little bit about, kind of like you said, kind of talking about that senior class and whatnot. 4 kids are named team captains. Talk kind of about that process, and obviously we got 5 captains that usually go out, and you got the 4 permanent ones, Shay, Jace, Colin, and Trace. So talk a little bit about how that process worked, and then how you guys come with that 5th one each week.
Okay, yeah. So every year throughout the summer, here we go. It's a new team.
Yeah.
And so every day we work out, you can kind of see glimpses of who's stepping up, who's getting the drills, running drills the correct way and things. And then we get into fall camp, and that first day we send out a team vote. We send out a Google form, and they vote on 4 captains. And when we talk about what a captain is to the whole team, we talk about the criteria. Who meets this, who's a good leader who plays well on the field, who's good in the classroom, who's good off the field, who embodies Elgin football to our standard, the most. And, after a team vote, those guys had the top 4 vote. They were the vote getters. So we went with them, and it's new territory to them, they've all been really big keys.
Right.
In what we've done for a long time now. But like I said, they're in the driver's seat now. It's their show, and watching them learn once they got named, and watching them, and I've had 2 meetings with them, captain meetings, where things weren't exactly where we wanted them, and it was big moments for me and them. And we talked about a lot in those meetings as far as, what we want our team to look like, and how they need to get us there, not us coaches.
Right.
And that was good. We talked about everything. We broke it down to those 4 and what they got to do better. Talked about, team-wide, how they can lead this team. And I thought it was really beneficial for them, for our team, and really to solidify who we are.
Right.
And those guys have done a great job, and we're going to continue to push them, and really proud to see their progress so far, and really excited to see where they take us. Our 5th captain is a deal that we started, we've done it for a couple of years now, whether we had 3 and we added a 4th or whatever, because every team's different, right? The 5th captain can be anybody. It can be somebody who's had a great week of practice. It can be somebody who is kind of going above and beyond. It's kind of, we want to use it as like a spark plug. Just another added element that guys can strive for each week.
Yeah.
And it was good. I actually jumped the gun on our week 0 game, I named Hunter the 5th captain because I just felt like Hunter has been so solid for as long as I've known him.
Yeah.
And when we named the 4 captains, I jumped the gun and named the 5th captain. I usually do that Thursday or the day before the game. But I trusted Hunter, and it didn't matter how many weeks we had before we played a game. I knew that he would be what we wanted in that role.
Yeah.
And that was another message I could send to the team, because he's a great example of who a lot of people should strive to be.
Yeah.
And like I said, 5th captain can change week to week, but it's another deal that adds another element, a good positive element to our team week to week.
Yeah, I mean, it's super cool. I mean, to be named the captain is great, but it's even better, like I said, when you get the team involved and the teammates. I mean, that probably means more. Like I said, I know those 4 guys think the world of the staff, just talking to them and talking to their parents as well. But I mean, it probably means more that that they know that their teammates also recognize them in that way. So that's a cool deal. And like I said, a lot of them have played. Most of them have played a ton of football for us. So they proved themselves on the field. But all of them seem like they have taken this role. Colin kind of had that role last year a little. But it seems like they've taken this role seriously, and like I said, it's going to be interesting to see how they take this, because we're only going to go as far as those 4 take us, and not just necessarily on the field, but at practice, in the locker room, kind of maintaining and policing that locker room and the field play and things like that. So, like I said, congratulations to those guys. I mean, it's a great accomplishment, a great achievement, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's their teammates got it to them, so I mean that's even cooler because they can see, not only you just a good football player or whatever else, that means that all of them think that they're good teammates as well. So pretty cool deal there.
Hey, going back to practice, as far as a coaching standpoint, you have the Friday night games, you have the 9th grade games, you got the JV games, and y'all even have a big part to do with the middle school games as well. As far as what happens on Monday with the 9th grades and the JV, how much does that go into practice throughout the week? Because I noticed today a little bit of change in the practice.
Yeah, Coach Baker kind of brought it up, and I've been kind of thinking about how we can get more meat off the bone in practice. And so we sat down as a staff and we split practice completely, where if we're going varsity offense, our defensive coaches are going to go take a younger unit in practice defense on the other side of the field.
Yeah. Okay.
Whereas before, and so we're going to kind of modify it as we go, but we got off the practice field today and we threw it together yesterday and today before practice. And we really liked it, as we were sitting down after practice talking as a staff. Some guys were walking down the hall, leaving, and that younger guy got better today. That younger guy got better today. And there's times to do that, and then there's times where on a Monday when we do have those 9 JV games, we want to pull the reins back a little bit so the 9th and JV have their legs under them for their game. But Tuesdays and Wednesdays, our plan tentatively right now is to go and do that and split practice, and I feel like it's really, really beneficial. And it's more work for just practice organization and knowing where you're going to be. But like if you came to practice today, you noticed things were going on everywhere. Yeah. There was very little guys not doing anything. And I think that when you're doing that, I think you're really, really getting your young guys ready. And they're getting valuable reps from their position coach that maybe before when the whole offensive line was together and you have 10 minutes to work a drill, it's hard to get everybody in and get it all done the right way. So now we can break it up, and it also, on the flip side of that, allows our varsity with their position coaches to have more hands-on time within their individual and group drills. So it puts a little bit more on our plate as coaches, but that's what we do. We're here to develop our team, and I was really excited to see it work out today.
Yeah, because I mean, if you can see glimpses during scout team, but you're not really coaching him.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, because he's reading off a card, running whatever the other team is running. But I mean, breaking it up that way. Now, like I said, now you get some individualized coaching for those young kids. And then I like what you said too, also about the Ants and the Jaces and those guys getting that one-on-one kind of time with Coach Castro rather than just the whole entire group there together. So I think that's going to help. I think it's going to be more beneficial in the future, and it's going to really help those young kids come along. And it also kind of probably makes them feel a little bit better.
Absolutely.
That they're not just practice dummies. Because when you're on a scout team, sometimes it's tough, and I mean you're not really getting that individual coaching, and you're not really. Hey, run this play and run this play. We're not running our own plays. You're running off a card and whatnot. So it kind of, like I said, makes them feel a lot more part of the program and some of that stuff. So that sounds like a great idea right there.
And it keeps everybody going too. Keeps everybody moving. I'm glad you pulled me to the side and said, go do this, because if you go back and look at the film, you'll probably see me walking around wondering what I'm doing.
Aimlessly wandering.
I showed up after school, so I get there, I'm like, man, what's going on?
This is different.
Yeah. Where's Coach Hill at? That wasn't the same. I was like, oh crap, I gotta go do something here.
No, we've had what, 2 JV games?
Yes.
Yeah, a JV game, and then we had a 9th grade and a
Talk about some. I mean, I know that you're a big part of that stuff. I mean, as a head coach and whatnot. I mean, building the program and what. But talk about some of those young kids that have stepped up and played some in those first 2 games. But talk about some of those kids that you've seen in those JV games and even in the first 2 games that have really made an impression and stood out to you.
Yeah,
because everybody knows kind of what we get from the Traces and the JC, and all those guys.
Yeah, probably just to name a few guys, and then I can go into detail. Brady Paraguay had a really good game at Altus.
Yeah, five sacks or something.
Yeah, something like that. Caden Boleto had a really good game, and the snaps that he are getting are really crucial to his development, and he's doing a really good job with that.
And he did well Friday night against Hillcrest too. I mean, I know didn't really ask him to do too much, but I mean, just those snaps in a game, calling plays in the huddle, under the lights, and all that kind of stuff goes a very, very long way.
Right. Our young receivers are doing a great job. John Lohman, Corday Ritchie, Joey Ariano. They've had some big catches on Monday nights. And then I go to my position, tight ends. I'm seeing big improvement from Jake Deal, Tucker New, because we do so much with our tight ends that it gets hard to know our alignment, know our assignment, and they've been doing a really good job with that. Defensively, even our freshmen are doing a great job. Caleb Adesola made some great plays. Ninth grade wise, Jack Bybee had some great plays. Keegan Hillary made a big play last Monday night against Weatherford. And it's just so, Monday nights are so crucial, just to see the development, see the guys that are fringe guys, fringe varsity guys that can go out there and they go make a play and their position coach goes, okay, if we can get this on Monday night, he's close.
Yeah.
He's close. And that's what I want our team to understand. You should want to go play Monday nights.
Right.
If you're a fringe guy, you should want to go get those reps. Because first of all, that's the attitude that I want to go play a game.
Right.
And so those guys that are game for it, they're making the most of their minutes and really maximizing themselves, and that's what we want to see. We want to have workman-like attitudes, and I don't care, I'll go play.
Right.
And we've seen that. We've seen that from our guys. Our offensive line, a lot of those guys are sophomores that were last year we didn't have the capability to really play 2 games at times. This year we do, so they're getting a lot more snaps in that JV game. And, a lot of those guys are on the depth chart too.
Right.
And so seeing their development has been really good too. And the list goes on, but that's why playing 2 games is so important on a Monday night. You play a combined game, which sometimes we have to because the other team doesn't have enough. But when we get to play 2 games, they get a full tilt, whether it's a guy that's got to go both ways and he's got to flip from offense to defense and be ready to go when it's tough. So 2 games is crucial, and I'm glad we get to do it this season. But yeah, it's been really good, Derek.
Yeah, it seems, like I said, Brady's one that comes to mind. I mean, he did a great job in the JV game and then stepped in at Hillcrest and played some meaningful minutes when the game was still kind of close and played very well. And then, like I said, Caden, his jump from last year to this year has been great to see. Because, next year, if everything plays out, I mean, he may be that guy.
Yeah.
And I mean, to see his maturity from last year to this year, and then, like I said, making plays with his feet. He's a little bit different than Trace, making plays with his feet in the JV games and things like that, and then going out there Friday night against Hillcrest and completing a couple balls and doing some things and just getting everybody lined up. I mean, and some of that stuff under the lights, I mean, it's a big thing and goes a long way for him in the future. And at the end of the day, he's one helmet coming off, or sprained toe or whatever from being the guy. So I mean, he needs to get to that point. All of them are. I mean, like I said, if you're a 2, I mean, somebody's helmet comes off, it's 3rd and 10.
You gotta go.
You gotta go. So I mean, it's cool. Like I said, and it's cool now too that the program that we have built allows us to play those 2 games, and allows us the opportunity now. Freshmen are learning in those JV games and freshman games, and rather than learning on Friday nights and trying to figure it out as they go.
I mean, realistically, I mean, if they don't, a lot of the time they're not going to have the benefit to play on the Friday nights.
Right.
I mean, even like last year, I mean, when we're blowing kids out, the freshmen still ain't going to get a lot of time to go in there and play, so, I mean, it works out good for them.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, you want guys that want to play games.
Yep.
I mean, if you're a 2, I mean, I got to go play a JV game. You don't want that kid. Because, hey, I'm not getting as many reps as I can on Friday. Let me get these reps in on Monday. Because, I mean, again, practice is practice. I mean, yes, it's meaningful and it's preparation and all that kind of stuff. But, I mean, reps at practice are not game reps. There's a whole different, I mean, adrenaline, things are faster, all that kind of stuff. So,
as far as kids coming up, I always tell the kids in the league, like, play as hard as you can. It's going to be different when you get in 7th and 8th grade. As far as the kids that are going into 7th and 8th grade and they're looking at maybe changing the position, what advice would you give them?
Be game for it. The biggest thing that I can tell, or the biggest thing I look for in a 7th or 8th grader, is when we're at practice and, hey, we need a body.
Yeah.
We need a lot. I'm looking for that kid that runs out there, no matter what he is. And I notice that kid because he wants it, right? And even if he's a 2 or even if he's far from it, let's work with that kid because he wants it. And every kid's different, right? But that's the biggest thing is get out there. Get out there and, make us turn you away is what we tell them. But it is also tough for those young kids because it's new.
Right.
They're learning how we practice. They're learning positions. They're learning that everyone has a position coach, So that's the biggest thing. And once they get that and once kind of the whole 7th, the whole 8th grade understand that, you see a big difference in them. And then the next thing with young kids is I look at every time we get an 8th grade team for the year, you can tell that they have been in our program 1 year.
Right.
Because they already know. They already know a lot of what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. And now it's just getting the reps to get better there. 7th grade, we're teaching them. We're learning how we do things. And it's important to know that and learn that then as a 7th grader. That's part of being a 7th grader. And then it just makes things easier as you get to be an 8th grader, as you get to be a 9th grader, and through the program.
Just to transition a little, this is the first time we've had you on this year as a guest or whatnot. 2 new additions to the staff, Coach Park and Coach Breeze. We've had Coach Breeze on, so we kind of understand his background and things like that with Lawton High and whatnot. But talk about with those 2 guys, what they bring to the table. Like I said, I mean, I know you guys are close coaching staff and being around you guys during the summer and the fall and now 2 weeks in. I mean, it seems to me the transition was amazing. I mean, they fit in like little pieces of a puzzle. But talk about kind of getting those guys here and what they bring to the table that's helping you guys out so far this year.
Yeah, we're able to hire both of them, and when you hire 2, you have 2 new guys on staff. So you got to kind of get them caught up, and I'm glad that they were both here all summer.
Yeah.
That made things easier. Both of them are outstanding coaches.
Well, both of them have relationships too, which made it probably a little bit easier.
Yes. You know, all familiar with each other. You know, the backgrounds at Lawton High, Park, Breeze, and Castro worked there for a stint, and that's the coaching world a little bit. You do it long enough, you get smaller and smaller. But fit in really well. Both really solidify our staff. I really love our staff. We have quality at each position on both sides of the ball, and that makes practice better. That makes Friday night execution better, and that's really what we wanted. And then as far as fitting in and like if you work at Elgin, like speaking for myself, like if you're on staff, you're my friend. Like you're my dude. Like we spend so much time together throughout the fall that I mean,
your family.
Yeah, I mean, we have our group text and it's constantly going off at night. You know, whether it's about football or a joke. But that's important because you spend so much time with these guys that you want it close knit. You know, you want it to be a family atmosphere, and like during football season, if we ever have an off day, I'm calling or asking the coaches to hang out.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's important because you want to grow relationships and be able to work. You know, especially a guy that if you're the O-line coach, you need to be real tight with the D-line coach. If you're receivers, you need to be tight with the DB coach because after a while, you start to build that chemistry, and then that helps with practice. It helps with Friday nights, and that's just an environment that we wanted to create here. And we've got together for things preseason. We had our crawfish boil as a staff, and I think those things are important. And we get together and build those relationships other times. But those two guys bring experience, energy, knowledge. Workmanship attitude to what we do, and it's been really good, and you tack those guys on top of all the guys that we have, and I think this is the best staff we've ever had at Elgin, the deepest staff we've ever had at Elgin. I think all of them, one day or have been in the past, they're head coach candidates, and that's what you want. And I'm blessed and appreciative of what they do and how they think and how they help me because I mean just like I alluded to with practice earlier, that was Coach Baker's idea.
Right.
We're coming back from Weatherford at 10:30 Monday night and we're talking how can we get and he brought that up and all those guys are constantly bringing up good stuff, and when you got that feedback, man, you can make a lot of things happen throughout the fall.
Well, I would think as a head coach too, that makes it. I mean, not that your job's easy by any stretch of the imagination, but I would think that would make your job easier because A, you're getting good feedback from them, and then B, you can trust them. Yeah. So, like you said, I mean, as far as position coaches and things like that, you're not having to, kind of helicopter over that position. And I know in the past you kind of did just because, I mean, at the end of the day, that's a head coach's job. But, I mean, now, like I said, y'all built these relationships. Y'all are all on the same page. Yep. So when you're on the same page with your entire coaching staff, like I said, I mean, it allows you, now you're coaching tight ends. It allows you to just go over there and deal with the tight ends solely and not have to, DBs need a little bit of watchful eye and this, that, and the other and some of that stuff. So I would think it makes your job a little bit easier.
Funny story about that, to that point right there, I've spent more time at Coach Hill's linebacker individual the last 2 weeks than I ever have. And he's like, what are you over here for? Am I about to get fired or what? But and that's why. I can walk around when we're on defense, and if they need a helping hand, I'm there. And then if I can help them coach, I'm there. But man, I could sit in the bleachers, and practice and run smooth. And that's a testament to those guys. And
pull the body by and get you a little golf cart and just drive around.
There'll be jokes about that with the gator. We won't go there. But those guys are professionals. They take their job serious, and Man, they're good. They're good at what they do.
Well, you talked about, how y'all spend, time together and stuff like that, but it also makes it a lot, from a leadership standpoint, for you to take advice from people that you do trust, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I've always prided myself on listening to everything, no matter who it's from. And yeah, that's great. But when you get it from the staff that we have, I mean, that's high quality opinions, upper level thinking on all the things that go into a football season. So it is a really good situation to be in.
And it's not just us that says that. I mean, it's around the state too, because you're looking at Coach Baker and Coach Castro. I know they're the coordinators, so they get the most publicity or whatever, but both of them in the last 2 years have been all-state coaches.
Yep.
So, it's not just us saying it and thinking it and whatnot. We have, people around the state are also noticing the high quality of our staff, because there's no reason that those guys get named to those spots. Obviously, it goes a long way because we've been successful recently. Yeah. But, people notice, that these guys are doing a great job. And, that's a reason why, Baker 2 years ago was an all-state coach, and Coach Castro this year. And then, so, that's a testament to those guys and the work that they're putting in, but also a testament to the entire program and you as the head coach as well.
Man, I had something I was going to ask, man, but I forgot right then. But from a head coach point of view, is there anything in your coaching philosophy that has changed from the beginning to now?
Beginning meaning
when you first started
head coach,
and now, is there any philosophies you had then that have changed?
Maybe not philosophies, but I've made changes to the way that we do things, and that may be because we're in a different point than we were in 2019, and it's just different. I think that's why you have to look at each year a different way and kind of where you're at as a program, because if I did the things in 2019 that I did those today, I don't think we would be as successful.
Right.
Because we had a different team and different establishment. We're establishing it then, and then as we go, you look at your kids first of all and what they need the most, and then you kind of relay that to your staff and talk amongst them to see hey, we need more of this, and then we can, look at our team and say, okay, these guys, and then you just have to work through it, and I don't
philosophy might not change, but every year coaching changes a little because of whether it be personnel, whether it be, like you're going to coach this year differently, right? And just offensively to point out. You had a 4-year starter at quarterback. Yep. So you do things a little bit differently this year. Next year, whoever that man may be, whether it's Caden or not, you gotta know somebody that's never started, maybe has never started, depends on what happens the rest of this year, never started a varsity game before. So philosophy might not be the right word, but adaptive and some of those type of things. Because we've talked about it on several times. Yeah, we returned a ton of people last year, we turned a ton of people this year, but every year is different.
Right.
No matter who, you might return every single starter, offense and defense, but the team's still going to be different from the year before because, different opponents, different whatever the case may be.
Well, I guess we just started with Hillcrest. Was there any surprises?
The first surprise is, well, not a surprise, but this one I was glad to see. We played a lot cleaner. And that was the main thing, because I was not happy after the MacArthur game. And that was a tough one to start off with. Big game at Cameron, all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes between us and them. And we got kind of wrapped up in some of that. And, I told our guys that, if our goal was playing December 14th, then we won't do it committing those penalties. That's not what championship teams do. But with all that goes into week 0, I was happy that we got the job done, played well enough to win the game. But they responded well. Yes, I was thrilled that we beat them, big football game, but our guys knew and I've told them that we're not going to let anything slide, and we're going to make sure that we do everything in our power to reach our goals. But going on to Hillcrest, cleaned up a lot, and that's what I wanted to see from your first game to your second game. You make a big improvement. Against Hillcrest, which they're working hard and they're trying to do things right. But it was about us and doing things right, and I said that before. So that was what I wanted to see, is clean things up. Offensively, I thought we had a good night. I thought we had a really good night, really efficient. Defensively, we played really well. So pleased overall. And then just kind of thinking of it, like we had 9 penalties at MacArthur. We had 2 at Hillcrest, and that's been an emphasis because we've been running for those in practice. And we're running for 2, but I can live with 2 penalties.
Right.
I hope no players are listening, but that was a big deal, and just execution. We had a good night offensively, found where they were weak at and attacked them. And defensively, I thought we got back to running the football. We didn't run out with the black flag, and we did that. We did that at Hillcrest, and that meant a lot to them.
And talk about that. We talked about leadership earlier, and those captains and things like that. We talked a little bit about it during the broadcast. You and I talked a little bit about it last week. At times last week, going into that Hillcrest game was not the greatest of practices.
No.
Whether or not they were excited about the MacArthur win and whatever they saw on film with Hillcrest, whatever the reason was, not good practices. So ultimately, that led Coach Baker and you decided not to have a black flag bearer and things like that. We talk about the leadership we talk about a bad practice, and I think they had a decent practice, and then obviously came out and handled business on both sides of the ball and in all 3 phases of the game, I guess you could say. Talk a little bit about that and what that means moving forward, and do you think that we've made that turn?
Yeah, I think that goes back to what I say about we're not going to let anything slide, and we're going to do everything we can to reach our goals. Like, that message needed to be sent. You'd rather send that message now than you have a bad week 8 practice, and here we are week 9. Talking about the black flag and the defense, that for Colin Donnelly, that he was upset about that, and I've been really hard on Colin, from a captain standpoint to a defensive standpoint to a conditioning standpoint, because I think he can push himself and be something really great, and that's what I want to see from him. But and then it kind of falls down to the whole defense at that point. But they know, and it hurt them, and it was a tough decision, But that's what you got to do. That's what you got to do when lessons need to be learned, and that's part of also creating our identity. You've got to go through some adversity to see the other side. So that was the thought process through that, and like I said, we've been good since then. So you think the message is sent, and we've responded well to it. So we look to get that back at Newcastle and continue to reach the standard, because that's what we talk about it. It wasn't up to our standards, so what are we going to do? Reward them,
Right.
So
and talk a little bit about that standard, because we're 2 weeks in. You got 8 regular season games left, and hopefully we got 12 weeks left to go after this off week. We talk about the standard, this, that, and the other, and not to put the cart before the horse or whatnot, but looking at our schedule, I would assume if we're not in Vegas, but we're probably going to be favored in every game from here on out, very likely. So talk about that standard and what that means to the kids, and how to push them to get better every week and things like that.
Yeah, me personally, I learned,
because we're used to being the hunter, and now all of a sudden we're the hunted. We're 2 or 3, depending on what thing you look at as far as 4A goes, rankings.
Yeah, I think I learned that lesson last year after kind of walking through our schedule last year. And it's all great to win by a big point difference, which we did last year, but there were so many things that kind of, maybe got swept under the rug, or maybe we didn't address, and that's part of our staff and I's philosophy this year is, there's no stones left unturned, and I told them I'm to the point of paranoia about making sure that these guys reach their goals, and they're not going to like it at times, and that's fine, but they know, and I've told them and we've told them that we're going to get you there, whatever it looks like, and you've got to believe in it. That bad week of practice, I told them that, we had to stop and we had to run. And I told them exactly what I just told y'all. And it's another talk I had with the captains that I'm to that point, and the seniors have been really good at responding to that. And I think they know now, like with adversity, that, man, we've got to respond to everything that happens. So that was the biggest thing, and that's just the growth and the growth that we're going through to get us there, really and truly.
Can you talk a little bit about pregame against Hillcrest? I'm sure you don't do it every game, but against Hillcrest, you was able to have a conversation with the head coach. Can you talk a little bit about how that went?
Yeah, he's a first-year head coach there at Hillcrest, and
NFL player.
So we're an NFL player.
They got a great staff as far as football knowledge and football playing.
A couple guys that play in the NFL.
Right.
But do that every pregame. Get to talk with the other head coach, and it's usually small talk or program talk. And he's going through some struggles with first-year stuff, and that's just what you got to do. And you got to go in there and attack it all head on. And he was a really, really awesome dude, really nice guy. I'm glad they made the trip up, and we'll reciprocate and go down there next year. But it's nice to meet those guys and talk to other guys that you can relate to. It was kind of a short, sweet conversation. He complimented our stadium and complimented our team, which is normal for those kind of talks because you don't want to go, hey, are you guys going to stop counter tonight? Right. But real complimentary and good dude, and their kids played the right way, and that's a reflection of him. And so it was a good conversation with him.
Well, and also, for him, if he looks back at your past and some of that type of stuff. Your year one. If you do it the right way, good things come. And like I said, they've collected, like I said, a lot of people that have a lot of football knowledge, understanding. Sometimes, just because you were great on the field doesn't mean you're a good coach or anything. But like you said, they played the right way. Their kids acted the right way the whole game. That shows that they're kind of headed in the right direction. It'll be interesting to see how they end the season and when we get down there next year, kind of how the progression that they've made.
Yeah, funny thing he asked is, he said, how do you guys structure your Little League?
Yeah.
And I pointed to Cody, who was going through pregame with us. So that's the president of the Little League right there. He's our head wrestling coach, and he oversees everything first grade through sixth grade.
And he was like,
and he said, dang.
Yeah.
Because down there in their world,
right,
they have, probably 4 or 5 different Little League associations that feed into their school. And we're real fortunate to have, Cody been on staff as long as I've been here, 6 years, and we worked before. So that alignment is crucial. And he was like, man, you're lucky there. I said, yeah, that's crucial. So, but that was a good point too. He brought up, and that he's doing things right. He's trying to get things aligned. Elementary, middle school, to high school. But yeah, we're fortunate in that regard for sure.
Yeah, because I've been around a lot of football in my day, and the alignment that we have here currently is about as good as it gets.
Yeah.
And that makes it cool. Like I said, being there Saturday for some of the Little League games. Everything went off without a hitch. It was awesome to see the way everything was set up and all that kind of fun stuff. And like I said, it just builds and leads.
Yep.
As to build a program. You're not just creating a varsity team, you're creating a program.
So from a coaching standpoint, right? So like, for example, when we was playing Cash, I seen you go into super coach mode, right? And you was coaching offensive line, quarterbacks, receivers, with defense. You was helping me out with defense. I was just like, Right, cool. Super coach mode, you know. I was like, it's cash. We gotta win this, right? But how was it Saturday to be up in the booth watching Little League kids?
It was awesome. I got up there for the 4th grade game, into the 5th grade game, and it's awesome to see. You know, everybody's there. It's a big crowd, and you know, hats off to the guys that are dedicating their time to coach that level, because it's tough. They're volunteer guys, and Cody's doing a really good job managing those guys. Because it's tough. They're volunteers, right? But you also want to steer them in our direction. Yeah. And that's very important. And I hope that as we keep going, that those guys keep seeing that, keep seeing the alignment, and seeing how it's important. I think our middle school is a good example of that. How we do things in middle school and get them into high school. But really cool to go up there and kind of take a day off after we were done with film to watch.
Yeah. That's super cool too, because like, 1st and 2nd grade game, you know, Jensen's on that team, so Ritson and Case are kind of coaching the team, and then I know Brody's brother plays. You know, Jace is out there. You know, Jace was there around the 2nd grade or 3rd grade game, and I mean to see your quote unquote stars putting the time in. Like, I know some had little brothers and things like that, but they're putting in the time to, you know. And I mean, that goes a long way. I mean, 1st and 2nd grade kid that just saw Ritz Meyer score 4 touchdowns in a game on Friday, now all of a sudden he's at my game coaching me.
Yeah, I'm playing.
I mean, it is a cool deal. And then, like I said, Jace, you know, committed to Navy, and you know all the things that go along with that. He's out there coaching the 2nd and 3rd and 4th grade, you know, linemen and stuff. So I mean that A goes to the program that we're building, and the type of kids that are within the program and the parents too. So I mean it's a cool deal to watch.
No, and having high school kids out there, I mean, I've said it 1,000 times, I bet, but when a high school kid tells the little kids to do something, they listen a lot better than Coach P.
Because they see him do it. Yeah. I mean, they don't see, you know, they weren't around when Coach Chalmer was catching punts like he did Friday night.
Yeah.
Mommy left.
Yeah. I mean, you go back to Tuesday night. The sidelines filled with varsity guys.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's some places that might shoo those guys off, you know, or say, hey, you know, you don't need to be out here. But I say, come on, man. Like, and I think that's the environment we've created, you know, and our varsity guys may not know the name of that 7th grade right guard, but you know.
But if he makes a big play, the first one's out there running up and down, yelling, screaming, and jumping up for it.
You know, that's something I do when I talk to the middle school. I always talk about the senior class that year and say, you know, hey, you know, for example, I talk about, you know, the seniors this year. I said, hey, you know, Jace, Colin, Trey's, all those guys were in your shoes right here, you know, 6 years ago, whatever it is now. And I hope that resonates with them a little bit. I know that a lot of things can go in one ear, out the other with a 7th grader, but I think if you add those elements to your coaching with those young guys, I think it can maybe stick a little bit better. Because, like, I remember being like a 6th, 7th grader going to a varsity game, and I may have watched one snap, but it was a touchdown pass to somebody, and he's my hero now.
Yeah, I remember that.
You know? And now those guys are on your sideline. You know, I think that's cool. I think that's good, and I think it's good for our young guys.
And I've heard you talk about this on OSN coaches shows and stuff like that, and we haven't let our listeners hear about it, but talk about, you know, you just kind of mentioned that 7th grade. Talk about with this senior class. I mean, this was your first 7th grade group. Talk about with this. I mean, every senior class is impactful and whatnot, but talk about what this class means to you, because I've heard you talk about it before and things like that. So it'd be great for our listeners to hear that.
Yeah, 7th graders.
And these kids have played a ton of football for you.
A ton of football. And we are running the same plays, you know, now that they ran in 7th grade.
All right.
You know, very, very, very close resemblance of that. And just to see them come through, you know, all the way up till their senior year now, I feel like, personally, I've had a lot to do with them.
Yeah.
And that's why, one, it means so much to me, and every class means a lot to me. I said the same thing about last year's class being 8th graders. And that's also the other side of that is, I talk about like just making sure that I'm covering everything I need to with them. Because I guess the flip side of that would be that I've known them the whole way through. They've known me the whole way through.
Right.
And there's going to be times of turmoil still.
Yeah.
Like, hey, look, I know that you've always done it this way, but it's not good enough.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's a hard lesson to hit home with Jace and, all the other guys. But they also know now that I'm going to push them to make sure that we are capable of reaching our goals. And they've been really, really accepting of that because they know how we as a staff feel about them.
Right.
And we're going to push them. Like, whatever they did last year wasn't good enough. But they're very special to me, because, in this world, not a lot of people are at places long enough to see them all the way through. Not 9 through 12, I'm talking 7 through 12.
Right.
And
one of the coolest traditions to me is that picture that you take with, I think it's Trace, Colin, and Jace after games or whatever. I mean, and to see it from, and they might have even been, 7th grade. The one that really trips me out is Colin.
Yeah.
I mean, Trace and Jace kind of look similar, but Colin's just a completely different kid. But that's a cool tradition that you guys have, taking that picture after games and things like that, because that's when they were ball boys, and now they're leading the thing. So
I got one more question.
Yeah. Okay.
Cody shares the podcast a lot to the youth football page. Mm-hmm. What's one piece of advice you would give the youth coaches right now?
Make kids love the game. Make kids love the game. If you're way young, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade, 5th grade, make them love the game. Make them keep coming back out. We get into 6th grade, we can really start hammering in our system. But, I want those kids, young age, to be successful, and love the game. Because it can be hard as a young man. It can be really hard. And sometimes people can get lost in other things. But that's the main thing is keep their love for the game there. Because, I've experienced it throughout guys that we have on the team now that had quit Little League football because something happened to them. And sometimes you don't realize that there's a negative going on with the kid because it's hard to see all of them. But, and some kids they stopped playing until maybe their 8th grade year. Maybe they didn't come back out to their sophomore. So, man, just keep their love for the game there and try to win the football game. But that's the main thing is to get those boys loving the game. And then I guess the second fold that is make sure they know how to put their pads in their pants and knee pads. Because the 7th graders, we don't want to do that.
Well, it's a statement that you hear a ton and you kind of overlook it a lot of times. But the only advice I would give would be trust the process.
Yeah,
I mean, Coach Wyatt and Coach Baker, Coach the whole entire coaching staff. I mean, Coach Casher, all those guys take the time to meet with the Little League coaches and some of that type of stuff. And, we got varsity kids, trust the process.
Yeah.
Because Jace Williams, Trace Laura started there.
Yeah.
Trust the process and trust the guys that are making the decisions once they get to 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grade.
Also, when you get to 7th, 8th, 9th, you got professional coaches, if you will. It's still the ball.
Right.
And then I say that from personal experience. Like when I was in those shoes as a youth coach,
right.
I didn't know as much as I do now. You know what I mean?
No.
I just didn't. Because it was a part-time gig.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It was something else.
Well, and we said that 5 million times on this podcast in the last 2 years. You guys, this is what you do for a living.
Yeah.
So we're not putting your kid. You're not going to put anybody's kid in a position to not succeed.
Right.
You're trying to put them in the best position possible because if you don't,
Bailey said it best.
You've got Little Caroline's going to be. You get fired. Little Caroline doesn't have food next week.
She's going to wear different colors.
Right. So you guys are putting with your experience and your everything else, you're putting everyone's kids in the best position for them to succeed so that the entire team succeeds.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, trust the process, trust the coaches, and, if you don't like it, then grab a whistle.
All right, back to Hillcrest.
All right.
Players of the game.
All right, so 58-0. All right, so we're going to start off with honorary captains.
Okay.
So, practice player of the week, Thomas Finley.
Tommy,
Great kid.
he could win it nearly every week. He's very consistent. He's very smart. He already knows what's next in practice. Whistle blows, we're going to something. He's already getting it set up, and that is part of like practice being your lifeblood. You got to have those things. You got to have kids that are smart, that know how to transition, and that's Tommy week to week. And he probably doesn't know how big of an impact he has on us, just because he has to go and he practices every day. But we see it from a different standpoint that he does, and he's doing a tremendous job for us. Like I said, he'd be in the running every week for it. We want to spread the love, but I want Tommy to know that he does a tremendous job for us, and he's a big part of what we do every week.
Shout out to Country Air.
Next one. The next one was the fifth captain, but he was also the special team player of the week,
Okay.
Delgado.
Yeah. Aiden has been all in, embraced his role. Perfect last week, perfect this week, extra points, did a tremendous job kicking off. And has really, really took it on. And as a kicker, it's hard to win your teammates over sometimes just because you're not out there a lot.
Yeah.
You're not going through all the stuff. But he has embraced his role, and the team's behind him, and that's part of why he was chosen as fifth captain. And then special teams player of the game, did a great job. We had kind of a north wind into us on kickoffs. We wanted to do something different. Maybe try to get them to muff it on their kickoff return, but he got us, did his job there, and then perfect on extra points. And today, yesterday, we go into tackle circuit, which is our defensive rotation, and I see him screaming across the field to go get into tackle circuit, because part of his job as kicker is to be prepared to tackle.
Right.
And teammates see that.
Yeah.
Because most of the time, like I said, when you got a kicker that's willing to do that and get his nose dirty and some of that type of stuff, teammates see that.
Respect that.
Yeah.
Respect that. Yeah. Great job.
And then, the cool thing about it, too, is, like I said, last week at practice, made a, 40-yarder, I think, with a snap and a hold, and then, kicking just without a snap and a hold, just on a tee or whatnot, was, making 45, 50-yarders. And, talk a little bit, just, I know we're going to go into players of the game and stuff like that, but, talk a little bit about that, as a coach now, because I know last year we were a little bit limited on that. Talk about your game calling and some of that type of stuff, knowing that, maybe within the 30-yard range we can get a field goal on the board and some of that type of stuff.
Yeah, I've got full confidence in him. I really hope that we get some opportunities for him to go out there and get the first one out of the way with a field goal unit. And that's just something that we got to go and see if we get that opportunity. But if we do, we're running the field goal unit out there because you may need that late in the year.
Yeah.
You may need it week 4, week 5, whatever it is, and we get that opportunity. Last week we didn't. The game went the way it went.
Yeah.
But I really did want to get him some opportunities. But he's doing a great job, and he knows when his numbers called that I've got full confidence in him, and he's got full confidence in himself to go out there and knock it through.
Rough Rider, Jace Williams.
Jace had a great game. Played every snap until halftime on offense, and he's a guy that has the ability to be the highest grader every week, be the Rough Rider every week. He does a great job on the left side with Ant, communicating combos and whatever the scheme is that we're running. And actually had a knockdown and a pancake on one play.
Yeah.
So you don't see that often, but that's Jace, and that's part of the standard that he can play to, and that's what we want him to play to every week.
Talk about, just to kind of piggyback a little bit off of that, talk about what he means to Ant, and like I said, we haven't talked with you yet about Ant. I mean, Ant, like I said, kind of an anomaly out there and whatnot, committed to Tennessee, and talk about his progression in the 2 weeks that we've seen him in live action. But talk about what Jace means to him, and having him next to Jace next to Ant means to the entire team.
Yeah, first of all, it's a physical presence on the left side of the football. We may be run left heavy. I don't know. Newcastle.
You should be. I mean, I think they can scout that and determine that.
Yeah, I think it's been.
But you got two D1 commits.
Yep.
On that side of the ball. So
I think it's been really good for Ant's development too.
Yeah.
People that don't know, he's fresh to football, and I think that we're playing a different level of football that he was playing at his different school. But Jace has been really good talking about the left side, going through their calls at the line of scrimmage, and they work really hard every day at building their bond and their trust together on the things that they work together with. And we're going to see a different front every week. So the harder they work at building that unity there on the left side is going to make it easier week to week when we see different things. We talked about that week 2. We got it again week 7. And Jace has done a tremendous job pulling him along and letting Ant learn our rules. And he's doing a great job, obviously. And once that thing is really fine-tuned, they will work really well on the left side.
Week 8 or 9, I can't wait to see.
Yeah.
I mean, because every week
they take strides every week.
Yeah, because spring. Well, okay, who is this? What is this? Okay,
Yes.
Summer, and then in fall camp it was just a different animal, and now that we're 2 weeks in, I mean it's a whole nother different animal. So I would by week 8 or 9, and one thing too that Jace played that spot.
Yep.
So Jace knows exactly what Ant's seeing.
Yes.
But that also goes to show the type of football player that Jace is. He's playing a completely new position. He's been left tackle for 3 years now.
Yep.
So now all of a sudden he moves into guard, no problems at all. But he can also communicate with Ant, like, hey, this is what they're going to do for you at tackle and things like that. And I mean, for Navy, you're getting a hell of a football player, a smart kid, and like I said, he's a coach on the field, and he's telling Ant, what I've seen before, but he's still also doing a new position, and it's phenomenal to kind of watch and see what he does.
Yeah, Chase is good on and off the field. Great example of an L, 100%.
Well, that's part of the reason he's going to the Naval Academy. That's
sharpen your axe, Braxton Antuna.
Yeah.
Tiny had a hell of a game.
One carry.
One for 90.
Yeah. I saw him Saturday. I said, that's going to help your average out, brother. He was like, how do you think about that?
We hand out the Sharpen Your Axe Award every week when we win, and it can mean a lot of different things. It can be a guy that had a really tough assignment against a quality, the position he was going against. It can mean a guy had a bounce back game. It can mean a guy impacted the game in a lot of different ways. It can mean a lot of things. And for instance, Tiny, he scored on offense and he scored on defense.
You have the safety. Yeah.
So, and obviously he showed a lot of great things week 0 when he got in there, got some carries, and he's also going to play majority of the snaps at our dog position. Yeah, I thought it was beneficial to give it to Tiny the way he impacted the game on offense and defense, had the 90-yard touchdown and the safety. So
people see the offensive stuff, but talk about what he means to the defense and him stepping up into that role of Andre Crabtree, Peyton, Christensen, and stuff like that. Everybody sees the offensive carries and did well against MacArthur, and then obviously had the big run. But talk about because I don't think people understand what he does on defense and the impact that he makes on the defense.
Yeah, the dog position is tough because you have to be really good in the pass game, but you also have to trigger on the run, and that's the position Peyton Christensen played last year. And Peyton was really dynamic at it last year, and those are a lot of the same qualities that Tiny has in himself. to be able to make those plays in space and coming off the edge quick.
And he's only a sophomore.
He's only a sophomore, so that's that's the thing, and he's done a great job until this point of learning it and knowing where he's going to be. And what Tiny's got to understand is he's got tough assignments down the road.
Yeah.
And that's what I want him to realize every day at practice, that it may be okay now, but you've got to be ready for these assignments down the road, because that position is tough to play, and that's part of
But at the end of the day, he's a dynamic athlete.
Yeah.
And I mean that helps a ton.
Yep.
And I mean, I know we call him tiny and things like that because he is undersized to a certain, but I mean, he also is built.
But he's not tiny.
No, he's built. I mean, and all that kind of stuff. So,
Defense, Casey Meyer.
wow.
Yeah, great game by Kaysen. He's a guy that's going to play a lot of snaps for Ritson at times. Came up second leading tackler. I believe he had a sack and 2 TFLs. Had 2 really good open field tackles. That's what we expect from him. When he goes in at defense, we don't fall off, and that's what he's got to understand from what we want. I think he's, after 2 weeks, I think he's the second leading tackler on the team.
Super smart football player.
Yeah, super smart. He's just got to keep working and keep getting his.
Also caught a touchdown.
Also caught a touchdown. Yeah. Just keep working on his physicality and because he got limited varsity reps inside linebacker last year, and he takes on a bigger role this year. And he's got to learn that, same thing as Tiny. He's another sophomore that has to know that we got big things coming from you down the road, and we need to get ready for it now.
Offense player of the week, Ritson Myers.
Ritson had 4 in the first half. Those are things that he can do. He caught one, ran 3 in, and he's a guy that is going to keep getting better every week as well, just because he's getting his mesh and his relations and his reads on the offensive line, and he's been practicing really hard. Ritson's kind of turned a little bit of a corner from last year to this year. He knows that he's taking on a bigger role, and he's a guy that we expect that from. And we're going to keep expecting that from every day in his daily work. But to see him get in the end zone 4 times and a half, I mean, that's impressive. And he ran the ball hard and, has great hands. And we're going to continue to look at him in the pass game as we build this thing. So just, he's back-to-back offensive player of the week. And, if he's on, he's a candidate for that every week. But offensively, there's also a lot of other guys that were in contention for that. I told Brody Monday in the weight room, I said, "Man, you catch that one, we're giving it to you." But and Brody's Brody. You can hammer on him all day long. But he's gonna catch that next one we give to him. We got fully trust.
Brady still had 4 catches for
had a big night.
20-something yards.
Had a big night.
Over 100 yards.
But it's it's just hard not to give this guy that had 4 touchdowns. But
I told Brady you can't get tackled at the 6-inch line ever again. You need to figure out a way to get that over.
Trace is right there in the mix too. And that's good. When you have a lot of guys that are candidates for the offensive player of the game, that means you're spreading the ball out, and a lot of guys are making plays on offense. It makes you hard to defend. So even though one guy gets it, there's a lot of cogs in our wheels for offensive player of the game. So.
And you touched on it a little bit. We'll talk about his growth now as a leader. Like I said, he was always a leader on the defensive side of the ball. And I mean, he had a lot of yards and whatnot on the offensive side. But now, Matt's gone. He's taking on a bigger role in the offense, and it seems like he's accepted it. And like I said, talk a little bit about leadership differences that you see from the Ritson that we knew as freshman and sophomore Ritson to now.
Yeah, he knows when it's time to go. Ritson knows, but the biggest thing I've seen from Ritson is he's practicing harder. You know, he's we run a play in practice and it splits, and he's running. Whistle blows to come back, but he's going 5 more yards, and that's important to practice that because
I don't think people understand the amount of shape that he has to be in with the amount of snaps that he plays.
Absolutely, and that's what you do in team when you hand the football to you and it breaks. You need to practice, and it's easy to say and hard to do.
Right.
Without even saying much to him, the first practice I noticed that, and so that was really good to see that he knows. And Ritson could be a little bit smarter than he lets on to be.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. And he knows, and like I said, when it's time to go, Ritson knows, and he's an awesome kid, right. Quirky and all that other stuff. But to see that and to see him take that role on, and the offensive side, defensive side has been good because that's what you want from your running back. You want him finishing runs, and I think that pumps up the offensive line and everybody else that's a part of it, and you don't have to worry about it.
Well, Ritson, our team, we're fortunate enough to have a lot of kids with a lot of leadership ability that are, I'm sure, going to be great future leaders. You can't just come out to shoot being a leader a lot of times, but Ritson, when you need a leader, when he's in that position, he steps up.
Ritson's never been on a playing surface, whether it be football, basketball, wrestling, and not been able to hold his own.
Yeah.
Very rarely has he ever been on a playing surface and not been the best kid out there.
Right.
But for the most part, he's never been on an athletic playing field when the lights are on that he can't hold his own. So practice sometimes probably is mundane to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the trick that you run into, because like I said, he walked on the campus as a freshman, and all of a sudden, holy Lord, who's this kid? Then he goes out and wins, wrestling as a freshman, state as a freshman. Now he's two-time state champion. He's on, in his 2 years of wrestling, he's one of the best baseball players in the state in his class and things like that. So some of it is kind of, like I said, the practice part of it that he's doing that now shows the growth that he's making, because practice at times in the past has been a little bit difficult for him because, like I said, it's mundane. I'll be fine when I get to the field, but you don't want to hear that.
And that's our job as coaches, is to push him. You guys should mic up Coach Hill at practice with him.
Yeah.
Because it's never good enough, and that's part of our philosophy. And as gifted and as talented as he is, he needs to know that anybody can get better.
Yeah.
Anybody can get better, and I think he knows that, but he just needs to be pushed in that regard.
Wow.
Right.
He's the same thing I talk about these seniors. Like, I want to make sure he reaches his potential.
Yeah.
And that's our job. He knows it. And it's just him, growing and starting to realize a little bit of it, and that's been good to see. Like, he's conditioned harder than he ever has, but also there's more in there.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're gonna keep pushing for. But he's not had a lot of turmoil when it gets down to it, but we want to keep pushing him to where there's never turmoil,
right?
Because he's capable of executing and being successful all the time, but we don't want to let him come up short, and he's a really good talent, and that's our job to get him there.
Well, moving on to Newcastle next week. We haven't played Newcastle. We haven't played them in a while, right?
21.
Yeah, they were in the same district. Yeah.
So it's been since we played them.
21.
Yeah.
Okay. Obviously we're a different team since 21.
So just a little background. They were in 4A last year, then moved up. So when the redistricting came along, we're down 4A. They're in 5A. So they were in this district that we were in last year. So they played a lot of our same opponents that we will play this year. But yeah, good football team. Coach Brickman does a great job. OSN school, so we know a lot about those guys with Coach Brickman. CJ Bradford was OSN's newcomer of the year last year. So it's a very good football team. Played a ridiculous non-district schedule.
Yes.
I think 21-0 last week. Lost to Tuttle. I think this week maybe, is it Blanchard?
Blanchard.
Okay. So we'll know a little bit more about them this week after Blanchard. But yeah, I mean, they're a good football team, well coached. I mean, what have you seen so far on film? And I mean, they've only had that one game, but obviously they returned a ton of people from last year's team that did pretty well in 4A. So.
Yeah, Newcastle is really talented. They're really big on both sides of the line. Their quarterback is even bigger. He's 6'5", 215, 220. Really good runner and throws a good ball. They've got 3 really quality receivers. The running back is probably their best weapon on offense. They do a really good job of spreading the ball out and running it, and the quarterback, adds an element to it where you got to account for him. They, from what I've heard, going back from last year to this year, they are really excited about this season, and they should be with what they have back, and that's good. And defensively, they're big up front, 2 really good inside linebackers, and a lot of those good receivers playing defensive back for them. So really solid football team. And what they have is they're going to play Bartlesville, they played Tuttle last week, and they're going to play Blanchard this week, and then they play us. So they're going to have, really good quality teams under their belt,
right,
and are going to learn a lot from that, win or loss. And that's what we got to be prepared for. Kind of funny, we go down to 4A and they go up to 5A, different districts, but Jeff Brickman does a good job. They've got a pretty well-rounded staff. It's a lot of guys that I know from the coaching world, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be a really good test for us, and that's part of what we did beefing up our non-district schedule. Yeah. I think that's going to be the most beneficial thing. You look at last year's non-district schedule, our starters didn't play the second half in any of those games. We've already done that. And, I hope that we can get after them and let the chips fall where they may, but they're going to be really talented. And that's what we've got to know, and that's what we've started working on with them. So really, really big test. Really big test. I think that they are, them and MacArthur in the same district.
Right.
And I think that's going to be a really good football game.
Yeah.
Again, we got to get prepared for them because they do have some elements on offense and the quarterback run game. We've got to be sound, and they will throw it downfield. And then we've got to tackle that running back that, TJ Bradford's really good. And then offensively, we're going to get tested up front. Their defensive line is better than MacArthur's. And we've got to be good, and we've got to be sound, and we've got to be physical. If we're going to hang our hat on physicality, then this is the week to show it.
Talk a little bit about that. I mean, when it comes to non-district, your record doesn't matter. So talk about kind of beefing that schedule up and what that meant for us moving forward. Like I said, you want to play. It's great to get victories, and it's great to throw up 70 points and all that kind of stuff, and everybody's all excited. But I mean, at the end of the day, as a coach, you probably want to win a 24-21 game that your starters play all 4 quarters, and you're ready to go week 11 rather than week 7.
Yeah, just go back and look at last year. It didn't get us prepared, in which the schedule was already set from 2 years ago.
Right, so we had no idea going in. I'm not saying we could have did anything different, but
that was the point of emphasis this year when we rescheduled. Just going off of what we learned from last year, we needed to get hit in the mouth, and we needed to. And when you do that, I think you learn a lot about yourself. Win or loss. When you don't, it's hard to learn those lessons because they're not there.
I had a coach back in the day that said you learn more from your losses than you do from your wins, because you look at your wins differently.
Yeah, I think early on we learned a lot from losses. I really think we did, and then now, of course, you do learn from losses, but I think we are in a different point in our program where now we can learn from wins still, because we're not trying to get kids to believe, and if we did this, we would have won the game. If we, And our players are different too. They approach it differently too, because now, okay, yeah, we won, but now we're talking stuff like, well, this isn't up to our standard. And that's when the kids have to really embrace it that, yes, we won, but we're going to have to get better in order to reach our goals.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little bit about where we're at. But yeah, we need quality football games early, and that's what we got with MacArthur. That's why we scheduled Newcastle. Putting, whatever that outcome looks like, that's why we scheduled them, because I know they're quality and really good. So it's a really good test for us going in district.
Talk a little bit, as we sit here, because I don't know when we're going to get you back on. Talk a little bit about that 4A1 district.
Yeah, you've got Clinton, Oak City, Weatherford, probably sitting at the top of that district, and been there before. And the first thing that sticks out, I've said it before, is physicality.
Yeah.
Weatherford may throw it around a little bit more, but Clinton is going to do what they've done for 20 years, 30 years, and they're going to try to beat you at the line of scrimmage in the run game. And Elk City last year was the same way. We'll see how they are this year. But it's physical, and I've talked to those guys in our district now since we got back into it, and that's the main thing they said is like 4A1 has beat themselves up in the past, and I think that's maybe what's negated them from getting to the finals or getting to the semis in the past, just because they beat each other up. But that's also a good thing, because when we match up in the playoffs, I think that we bring that to the other district.
Yeah.
So you got to kind of lean on, from a district standpoint, what the district does and take that into the playoffs. But it'll be different. And like I said before, we've got to kind of refamiliarize ourselves with those guys. But it is good being back in 4A1, because I know a little bit about them.
Yeah.
And our coaches know a little bit about them. But yeah, it's the top of that district is going to run the football and play smart football, and not make mistakes and keep it away from you. And so that's a little bit different from where we were last year, because it's a little bit more wide open.
Right.
Aside from like El Reno, Midwest City, but I think that we're game for those things. We showed that last year, and a lot of those guys that are part of the run stop or the run game are back. And I like the way we matched up in that district, but I hope that we're ready for the physicality. I know that we're physical, but we need to set the tone.
Yeah.
Being back in 4A1, and we need to be the hammer and not the nail. But it will be a different challenge, and we will have to scout those guys out and go from there. But I think physicality is the main thing that comes to mind with all those teams, and a lot of those guys, aside from us 2 years ago, played each other for a really long time.
Right.
So that's the main thing.
Final words?
Yeah.
I guess final words, I'll go and start it off. Final words, just thank everybody that's helped out, everybody that donated to the podcast. We had Darian Lefford donated, James Compton, John McGavick, and you, my man, Coach Wyatt. I appreciate it, my man. And I appreciate everybody that shares the podcast. Got a good game coming up this week. Bye week. We got bye week, and then Newcastle next week. Excited to see how that goes. Go Owls.
Yeah, so I'll give Coach Wyatt the last remarks, but yeah, for me, congratulations to you guys, 2-0. That's where we thought we would be at this point. MacArthur, it was a tough test. Obviously, with a week 0 game, you guys only had 2 weeks to prepare, full practice and whatnot. But congratulations to you guys and taking care of Hillcrest last week. 2-0, couldn't be more excited about the way that we're playing right now. Big one, got an off week this week, so we're happy about that. But big one next week to kind of see where we are. Tuttle was 1 in the state supposedly, and they beat them 21-0. Like I said, a lot of times you can't take away from those games. We played a common opponent and some of that type of stuff. But everybody that's listening and watching will also take something from it. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how we match up against Newcastle, and then leading into the district play. I mean, just looking forward to it. And congratulations to everybody who showed up at the Nest. It was an awesome atmosphere Friday night. We wanted to continue that against Newcastle. Newcastle does a good job of getting their fans to the stadium. So it's been a while since they've come down to Elgin. So it'll be important for us to get out there and be loud and proud for Elgin for that. But yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, we're super excited where we are, and just hope that we've got another 12 weeks in us after this week to get all the way to that golden ball. Because I mean, we've got a chance, and you know, seniors got to embrace that. Seniors got to lead our team to that. You guys are going to do a good job, I know that. But at the end of the day, it's the players that need to get us there. And those seniors that are listening today, you guys are the ones that are going to take us to that. The coaches can say whatever they want and can coach y'all up, but at the end of the day, it's y'all that are going to lead us to that point. So get us there, boys.
Yeah, I'd like to shout out our coaching staff for all the time they put in and all the dedication. You know, they think of our program just like I do, and that's big time. Adam Castro, Jack Baker, Lance Hill, Warren Forsythe, TJ Chase, Ryan Breeze, Andrew Park, Cody Brow, Derek Bean. You guys make it work, and I appreciate you guys. I appreciate your families also understanding how the fall is. You know your fall widows, your wives. So I apprate that, and you'll get them back at Christmas, I promise. And then I'd like to.
Not for Thanksgiving, though.
No. I hope. There you go. So, and then I'd like to, shout out all of our fans, all of our community that come out and support us every week. It's truly awesome to see, and I hope that we can continue to do that. And Derek, appreciate the podcast. I think it's awesome for our program. And Vincent, thanks for tagging along with it. And let's take this thing for a ride, man.
Absolutely. As always, go Owls. Woo!
If you like this podcast, go to the Mr. Bean patron website and make a donation. The link will be in the description.